Hey meine Bühnenrocker, es ist Interviewzeit. Ich habe den wunderbaren, einzigartigen, vielseitigen und unglaublich sympathischen Frank von Frank the Baptist eingeladen. Er ist Sänger, Bandleader, Gitarrist und der Songwriter dieser Band und das schon seit über 20 Jahren und ist schon in ganz Europa unterwegs gewesen, in den USA getourt. Und heute hat er sich die Zeit genommen, sich mit mir zu unterhalten. Ich freue mich wahnsinnig darauf, ihn euch jetzt vorzustellen. Nach meinem Intro geht es dann auch schon los und ihr seht die ersten 12 Minuten des Interviews. Das ganze Interview hört ihr dann auf den Ohren und zwar bei Spotify und iTunes. Und es gibt noch was zu feiern, deswegen bleibt dran. Herzlich willkommen zu Du rockst, dem Podcast, in dem du erfährst, wie du dein Leben und deine Bühne rocken kannst. Ich bin Monreaux, dein Live- und Musikercoach aus Berlin und ich freue mich wirklich wahnsinnig doll darüber, dass du dabei bist.
Up in New Jersey, in a suburban neighborhood, not that far from the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, for those of you who don't know where New Jersey is. And honestly, my father was a greaser, and he used to harmonize with some of the guys in the bands from the songs that you hear on the radio. And he up in North Jersey, and so he used to sing around the house, and I used to sing along and stuff like that. My mother would sing along to the radio, so there's always music going in the house and people singing along and stuff in the car or in the house. So it was fun. So as a little kid, I used to try to emulate or do like mom and dad, and I had such a great time singing that I got into that. My sister and I would put on little shows for my family. You know how little kids do and stuff, so it was fun. Yeah. So I never had a problem performing in front of other people, and I always had music going in my head or singing or something like that. So I grew up in one of those places where it was very acceptable. Like even on the school bus when I was a little kid on the way to school, all the kids would be singing along to the radio, or even if the radio wasn't on, everybody would be singing a song and stuff like that, like pop or whatever little kids are listening to. So it was always very much a part of my life. Then when I got into the underground scene, like the punk and hardcore scene, where I could go see shows, and even friends were in bands. This is in my early teens, like 12, 13 years old.
Wow, that early.
Yeah, but we had all ages clubs, like the City Gardens up in Trenton, New Jersey. You could get in even at a very young, 13, 14 years old. I remember seeing Suicidal Tendencies really early. And then friends had some local bands and stuff like that. And, they had started out much earlier than I did. And they would, some friends in some of the bands showed me how to make like bar chords and power chords. So I could play my favorite Misfits and Ramones songs and Sam Hain songs. And then I would try to learn other tunes, and it just became obvious to me that it was much easier to write my own songs than it was to play anyone else's. So I almost immediately started writing my own songs.
Wow.
And I'm not a trained musician by any means, not vocally or on guitar, but I always had a great time, and I always wanted to make music, and I was lucky enough to have other people want to join, and then much to my surprise, other people outside of the band were liking the music. We just thought we would have a good time. And so luckily other people liked it. And so it kept going. But that really didn't start playing out in bands until I moved to San Diego, California. So after I was in art school in Florida, I had moved to San Diego, and the atmosphere was just right somehow. And creativity was just boosted for some reason. And it was just more, more full stead ahead with that. So, I mean, the band I'm in now, Frank the Baptist, I've been doing this band for over 20 years.
Wow.
Before that, I'd been playing music for quite a while, too. So I had a band called Candlestick Maker in California.
Okay.
And that went for a few years. That you can hear a couple songs on YouTube. That's pretty much where I came from and how it all started, I guess. I'm sure I'm forgetting a few things along the way, but...
What about the name, Frank the Baptist?
That was a goof, actually. It was... Well, we had about 3 pages back and front of names written down, like 3 columns of names on each side. And I thought I'd do it democratically, and of course, democracy is not an efficient way to do anything, especially with musicians. I thought, well, we can choose which one we like the most, and whatever gets the most check marks and all this stuff, we'll take. We couldn't decide on anything. And then the guitarist, who, Scott, which I named Scott the Hoople, he came up with the name Frank the Baptist, after John the Baptist, which is a biblical character. And it gave me the creeps, so I thought, oh, it must be good, So we were all like, yeah, that sounds good. And it was fitting anyway, because after rehearsals, we were all drunk. We would stagger over to our bicycles and swerve on over to the beach and go for a sunset swim. It made sense.
Okay.
And it's kind of stuck. So that's that. That's how that started.
What kind of music do you make?
I would say when you boil it all down and you take all the pieces, all the extra off the top, it's really just a rock project. There are a lot of influences, though, and we don't hide any influences because we never set out to do a specific type of music. It was just, what do we like and what sounds good, what feels right. For me, it's more feeling than anything, especially not being a trained musician. I don't care what works on paper. If it feels right, if it sounds good, that's what's important to me. So, I mean, it's rock with, there are definitely goth and death rock influences in there, but there's also some classical music, classic rock, a little bit of doom and stoner in there sometimes. There's definitely 50s era platters, even some of the crooners, I would say some Sinatra and Dean Martin, all of that mixed in. I mean, they're all influences, especially with my vocal style. I love music. That's it. And so it all goes in. It's for us, the music, first and foremost. The fact that other people are into it, that's great, but that's not, we're not catering to any style or any group of people. We just do what we like.
Yeah, and you are very flexible to...
Yeah, and it makes it more fun, and I think it makes the music better in the end, too.
And do you have a special scene or audience from a scene?
Well, it's funny because we started in San Diego. Our first show was in autumn of 1997 in San Diego at a venue called the Casbah, which is still up today, with friends of ours called Lucy's Fur Coat. The drummer of Lucy's Fur Coat at the time was in the band Candlestick Maker with me and some of our other friends. And we basically started in the indie scene. And but it wasn't until some of the goth and death rock clubs up in Los Angeles heard us that we started to play outside of San Diego. We were content with just being a garage band playing shows in San Diego and not dealing with record labels or anything. we started the band to do something other than what was being done in San Diego. Because if you went out to see a show, everybody was wearing their gas station shirts, plugged their Les Paul into their Marshall stack, and that was it. And when they got off stage, you didn't know who was in the band or who was in the audience. Mm-hmm. So everybody looked like each other. So we wanted to dress up. We wanted to hear some reverb and delay, give it some atmosphere. Mm-hmm. We wanted to put on a little more of a show. And that's how it started. So when these clubs and other DJs and people got a hold of our music up in Los Angeles, we got some requests to go and play up there. Mm-hmm. And we were very lucky because we got to meet some great people, some really good people who were into the music, mm-hmm. big fans of music. Mm-hmm. So we got turned on to a lot of great music as well. And then from there, some friends of ours now who live in Berlin, at the time over in Bochum had a party called Pagan Love Songs, the Tussens. They had heard the music, started playing the music at their parties. Some guys from Austria and Switzerland and Berlin would go to the parties, heard it, liked the music, asked, who is this band? And they decided to start their own label to put out our first recording. They started Strobe Light Records, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then from there, it got more popular in Europe. Mm-hmm. And again, we were very lucky. A lot of great people we met through that. And so we were able to tour then mm-hmm. because of the label made it happen. And then we just started playing over here more. And then eventually I wound up moving to Berlin and reforming the band, but that's another story altogether.
Okay.
I don't know. I can't even remember what the question was. How did I get into
that? A special kind of scene or audience.
Oh, scene. So great. Yeah. So there we go. It gets the scene. Then now our biggest crowd is in more of the goth and death rock scene. We have a different fan base. We've got a very eclectic fan base because the music is styles. You can't pigeonhole it. Yeah. We never wanted to be, in a sea of indie bands or in a sea of goth bands or we wanted to do our own thing and we wanted to do something that was timeless.
How can you explain your development?
I guess it's just by mistake because there's never been any trying to do anything. I'm kind of lazy. Yeah. Foul. So for me, being that kind of person, that's why I tell people when they ask, I could never learn to play guitar or I could never sing. I was never taught and I was always lazy. So anyone can do it. If I can do it, anyone can do it. It's just what you're geared towards. What you feel passionate about is the direction you're going to move in.
Hat das nicht schön gesagt? If I can do it, anyone can do it. Wenn dich interessiert, wie das Interview weitergegangen ist, dann klickt doch einfach mal bei Spotify oder iTunes rein. Wenn ihr Bock habt, Frank live zu erleben, dann kommt am 25.01.2019 nach Berlin oder wenn ihr schon Berliner seid, dann kommt ihr einfach vorbei und zwar ins Wild at Heart. Da ist Record Release des neuen Albums Omen von Frank the Baptist. Jetzt zeige ich euch erstmal mit freundlicher Genehmigung von der Band das neue Video zum Song Second Halloween. Ganz viel Spaß dabei und wir sehen uns im nächsten Video wieder. Du rockst!
That would be a good trick. Police just say, hey,
there he is.
We want to do an interview with you. Show up here. It's like, we didn't even have to come and pick you up.
Hi.
Hi.
Making of.
Yeah, right.
The interview.
Exactly.
Wow.
You know what, though?
What?
Maybe I should put on some, so you can see my eyes, maybe I should put on a little mascara.
As you like.
Yeah.
Or so I'll have to go with the mascara.
You're funny, very good. Nothing on me right now.
All right, I'll be right back.
Cool.
I don't know that you guys. Oops. Sorry.
No worries.